should have went back to sleep by now, but your boy randomly woke up in the middle of the night, and I actually stayed up. And luckily enough, since I did, I got to see the new drip market for Zenless 2.1, and we're getting Ukinami Yuzuha, our first physical support unit. Now, physical support is something that we have been in a very dire need of in the game for a long time now. This is because a lot of our characters that are a part of the physical DPS category have been struggling for a bit. But before we even deep dive to all of that, I just want to generally talk about Yuzuha and how she overall looks and her core design. For me right now, Yuzuha, when she was teased back in 2.0 teaser, and I believe during the live stream, I always thought that she was going to be some form of fire DPS, or at least some form of fire unit. My original guesses were going to be a fire anomaly or our second rupture character, so fire rupture, but surprisingly she's a physical support, which I did not expect at all. But I completely welcome, because we've been needing some physical love since 1.1. Now, when it comes to her general character design, how she overall looks, I'm not too much of a fan of it because I'm not really big into schoolgirl designs. It's never really been my thing, but I do like the concept of her being an umbrella character as well, like Vivian, but instead of it being like a lance or form of sword weaponry, hers is a gun, which is pretty interesting. I've seen this type of depiction with umbrellas as well, so it's nothing far-fetched, but it is actually pretty cool to see that they have already kind of switched up with the idea of the umbrella so soon, since Vivian just recently released with this same form of weaponry concept. Now, when it comes to it being a gun, it actually makes me wonder, how will this be done within her gameplay? Will she be applying some physical debuff with her gunshots, or maybe she'll be triggering like assault ticks over time to help her physical units do extra damage? I don't know. She's going to be doing something with these physical gunshots coming from this umbrella, but it just makes me wonder on what exactly she's going to be doing. Her inclusion to the game overall also makes me wondering, how will she fare against Astra, especially since everybody or a lot of players recently just grabbed Astra upon her rerun. This is a very interesting pick, especially bringing a support this early within the 2.x lifespan, so I'm actually pretty interested on what they're going to be doing with this character. Now, one of the main things that I want to cover, how her being a physical support will actually impact the overall game. Now, like I mentioned a second ago, physical DPS or physical units as a whole have been in need of some form of support coming into the game. This is because for months now, and even almost close to a year, we have had very little physical content within the game and had very little buffs dedicated to improving the performance of physical units. This means that physical DPSs like Jane and Nakomata, Piper have technically been underperforming overall in the game, because nothing in the game is tailored to making them look good just like every other attribute within the game. And so when having a physical support finally being here and introduced, not only does that mean that we're going to be getting a buffer for the characters under that attribute, but this also means that potentially new physical enemies and content will be introduced into the game to actually provide them some overall value. And it's very good to see. I already pretty much figured that this was going to eventually happen, as the Zenless team has always been pretty much aware of all of the talks of the town when it comes within the community and the things that we like and dislike about a game. And one of the main topics that everybody brings up, especially when it comes to clearing content and attributes that needed representation, physical has always been the one that's been shown and been talked about as being the butt of the joke, the one that hasn't really got any love. And so it seems like finally within 2.x we're going to be getting some love, and specifically starting with 2.1, and I'm super excited to see how Yuzuha implementation will overall bring in a new line, a new love for the physical class. Now, with her being a physical unit though, it has me wondering what type of support she's going to be. Is she going to be a niche support dedicated to only buffing physical characters, or is she going to be a universal support like Astra? Personally, for me, I hope that she's more of a niche physical support, just because Astra being a strong universal option as she is, but it pretty much basically shows that we don't really need any other universal option for a support currently right now. We also have Caesar, who's a defense unit, but she provides really good support universally as well, making it so that this universal inclusion wouldn't really make sense for Yuzuha, since we already have great units that provide universal increases for physical DPS and just DPS as a whole. So it'll be good to see my physical unit to come into the game that provides niche support for the physical class overall, so that they can be somewhat of a linear choice, meaning that since they're only buffing physical, that makes them not as great of an option in the eyes of people who pull for universal options like Astra. But if you're somebody that's dedicated to the physical class and love physical units, you're actually getting a lot out of them because of how strong her buffs can potentially be due to her being a niche unit. This could be pretty similar to like Lighter's case. Lighter is a great stunner and is considered the best stunner in the game because of his niche application of specifically buffing fire and ice units. But since he's not universal, he doesn't have a lot of team options in comparison to the likes of someone like Chingy or Trigger, which is fine because his buffs are overall better than them for his niche cases. And I would love to see Yuzuha do something similar for physical units because they need the love, they deserve it, and it's about time they get it. Now, not only with her inclusion are people probably wondering how she's going to be playing the physical role in comparison to Astra. I know a lot of you are probably wondering, should you pull for her instead of Astra? And honestly, as of right now, this is really hard to say, because since we don't know the type of physical support she's going to be, we don't know if she's going to be niche, if she's going to be universal, and that's going to overall determine a lot on what her overall value is going to be. If she ends up being a niche option, then the only reason you should pull for her is if you are already invested into other physical units like Jane and Nekomata, and I mean like you're really invested and love these characters, as well as Korn and Piper. But if you aren't really dabbling in these units and you don't really care to, then it's kind of hard to say if you should pick her up. We also don't know who's going to be the following 2.1 character yet at the time of the recording of this video, and if they are another physical unit, then yeah, she'll be worth picking up because I'm pretty sure she'll complement and work with them. But if she isn't and she's niche, then you kind of picked up a support that's not really going to do anything in your account if you don't have any dedicated physical units to do anything with. I'm going to say though that since we don't have much information on her, and if you should skip Astra for her or not, I would say that if you're in need of a support, you're better off going for Astra, since we already know guaranteed information on her officially. Finally, let's talk about her faction, the Spook Shack faction. This is a new faction coming into the game that we don't know really much of anything about, but from my understanding, they are kind of sprinkled around within the 2.0 patch currently right now as you progress through the story. I believe Yuzuha is walking around or somewhere around, as well as one of the other members, the big wolf dude, I can't remember his name right now, Kamamono, something like that. He looks really cool and I'm super excited for him as well, because I'm pretty sure he's going to be a playable character. But those two are a part of the Spook Shack faction, and I believe he's even featured in the dialogue within her drip market talking about her. But based off the dialogue and stuff within her drip market, we can see that her faction centered around a store that she owns that sells potentially maybe mysterious relics of some sort. This kind of gives off like a very horror thriller feeling of type of faction for me, which is actually pretty interesting that they did it this early on into the year. I expected that if you were to do a faction like this, maybe you would bring it out closer to like the October-ish feeling, for like the horror aesthetic. But I don't know actually if Halloween is a big thing in Japan or China. I don't know. If not, then disregard that anyway. But this is the overall thing I'm getting a very horror and thriller vibe from it, as well as this mysterious feel, making me think that potentially maybe she uses some form of magic within the game. Now I know powers and magic and stuff is something that has been a kind of a prevalent topic within Zenless, and people have been saying that, you know, magic doesn't necessarily exist within the game, and this could still be the case with Yuzuha, but just the overall presence and vibes we're getting from it kind of gives me a magic itch, which makes sense because she's actually related to Tanukis. She wears a Tanuki on her back, and one of the key things that you learn about Tanukis is that they're animals that symbolizes good luck, prosperity, and transformation. And this transformation is normally tied to them being a form of shapeshifters, even to the point of them being able to shapeshift into humans. So we don't know if she herself is a Tanuki, but from the description that they said, it seems like she's able to possess the Tanuki on her back, allowing her to control it separately. So that also makes me wonder if she's gonna have like not only the umbrella thing doing like gunshots and stuff with her umbrella, but if she's actually going to have the Tanuki being controlled and moving around as well, which this is more than likely possible because we've seen within the 2.0 teaser of the Tanuki actually scaring one of the other characters, Alice, in the trailer. So this is actually a living and moving thing that's with her. We just don't know if it acts upon its own or if she's overall controlling it, but from the looks of it, she's probably controlling it. Also, Tukis are known for having magical abilities as well, so again, this all plays into this whole mysterious magic thriller as horror-esque feel that this overall faction is giving. This overall just makes me wonder how will the other characters in this faction work, and if it's going to be more than just those two that we've seen so far. But all in all, I'm just happy that we're getting a physical support unit finally coming into the game. Again, this is something that we've been needed, that characters a part of the physical class have been needing because they deserve more love. And so having a physical unit being introduced, again, is not only represent that we're going to be getting buffs for them through this support, but we're potentially going to be getting new content dedicated to physical units as well in the coming future. But you guys let me know in the comments below, how do you feel about Yuzuha and her interest into the game? Do you guys like her design? Do you like that she's a physical support? What were you expecting her to be? Leave in the comment section down below. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Join the Discord if you haven't yet. Link is in the description. And always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.